Are you looking for the best Black Friday deals for Sony cameras in 2019? Are you thinking about getting your husband a really good camera this holiday season? Do you want to up your home video quality this Christmas? If you're looking for answers to these questions, I got you covered. From the best budget Sony cameras to the ones that will cost you a second mortgage on your house. Today, we're going to talk about the best Black Friday deals for 2019 on Sony cameras. And that video is coming up next. If you're returning to the channel, it's good to see you guys again. I'm really glad you're back for another video. You know, we're almost to my end of 2019 goal, and that's to get to 100 subscribers. We're about halfway there, and your support is really appreciated. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Brian, the Camera Guy, and I review camera accessories and Sony camera gear. If that's something you're into, and you end up finding value in this video, consider clicking that subscribe button down below. Today, we're gonna talk about the best Black Friday deals for Sony cameras for 2019. I'm gonna take you from the budget or discount models through the most recent models, all the way to the ones that will cost you an arm and a leg. Now, I use these cameras 99% of the time for video, so those are the features that we're gonna stick to in this video. Now, I'm gonna give you my top pick in each one of these price categories. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video, as I'm gonna give you my top pick for best Sony camera for holiday season 2019. First up, we're gonna talk about the budget or discount camera section. These are gonna be cameras that are gonna come in at $750 or less. So now let's talk about the top cameras in this price category, starting off with the A5100. A little bit of an older camera, but still very good quality. If you're looking for a very convenient hybrid camera, this might be the option to look at. Now, this camera has a slightly smaller body than the rest of the cameras I'm going to talk about. It's an ASAP sensor. It does shoot in 1080p for 24, 30, and 60 frames a second. That 60 frames can be slowed down for slow motion, but it does not have any 4K. It also does not have any picture profiles, and it does have a 30-minute recording limit and no microphone jack. So you're gonna be relying on the built-in camera audio. Audio? And trust me, you don't wanna really do that, but if you're looking to save some bucks, this might be the camera for you. It's gonna come in at about $550, and that does include a standard 16 to 50 kit lens. Now, it does have a flip screen, so if you are looking to make some YouTube content, you can flip the screen up, see what you're doing, and it's a way to start going. The only downside is, without that microphone jack, you are gonna have to get some sort of external audio solution, unless you really wanna rely on that audio coming straight out of the camera, which I don't recommend. Next up, we got the Sony A6000. This camera is a solid camera that a lot of YouTubers used when they first got started with Sony products. It does have a slightly larger body than the A5100. This also records in 1080p for 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. Once again, this one has no 4K or picture profiles. It does have that 30-minute recording limit. It's got no flip screen, and again, it's got no microphone jack. So once again, you're gonna be relying on the camera's internal audio. This camera comes in at $650, and that would be with a kit lens. It's a solid camera, and it does have decent image quality, and it does have the same image quality as some of the cameras I'm gonna be talking about, but that lack of 4K can make it very difficult. Next up, we have the 2019 upgrade on the A6000, and that's the A6100. This one's gonna come in at around $750, and that one's not gonna have any kit lens. So if you want the kit lens, it's gonna be an extra $100. It has the same sensor and the same body as the Sony A6000. But the good news is, it does have the updated processor that Sony offers, so the image quality does look a little bit sharper. It's gonna offer you a better autofocus system, as it does have the eye detect autofocus. But it is going to lack picture profiles, so still no picture profiles with this. Because of that new processor, you also get 4K 24 and 30 frames per second, along with 1080p at 24, 30, 60, and that 120 slow motion. Oh yeah.
Slow motion. Yeah.
This also does not have any picture profiles, but the good news is it does have Sony's improved color science, which a lot of people think has less of a greenish tint than the former color science that the A6000 would have. Now, this camera does still have that 30-minute recording limit, but on the flip side, or flip up side, it does have a flip up screen. It also has a microphone jack, so you can plug in an external microphone and get better audio quality versus relying on the internal audio of the camera. So now the top winner in the budget category, it's gotta go to the Sony A6100. Now, this camera is definitely gonna be a budget range camera, It's not going to have any in-body stabilization, and it is going to be a great starter camera. You should be able to get great video out of this camera, but if you're looking to go with this price point, the 750 or 850 with the kit lens, the next section might be the area where you want to look at, as you can get a little bit better camera for only $100 more. Next up, we're going to talk about the cameras that are in the $750 to $1,000 range. This is your step up from your budget option, and you are going to get some significant increases in some of the features on a lot of these cameras. First up, you got the Sony A7 III. This one you can find right now for just under $1,000, and that's with the kit lens. It has that same ASPC sensor, but it doesn't have that upgraded processor. So don't let the 6000, 6100, and 6300 fool you. The 6100 has a better processor. The 6300 has the older processor, the older color science, but you are able to shoot in log profile, but no HLG. This camera does allow you to record in 4K at 24 and 30 frames, also the 1080p at 24, 30, 60, and that 120 slow motion. It does have that 30-minute record limit. It does have a microphone jack, which is great because once again, you can plug in an alternative microphone system. But again, we got no IBIS, we got no stabilization, and we have no flip screen. So the A6100 may be a better option than the 6300. Next up, you got the camera I've been using for the last 6 months, and that's the Sony A6400. This is gonna come in at $950, and that's with the standard kit lens. It uses the same body as the A6300. It does have that same sensor again, but it does have the upgraded processor. You are gonna get better performance out of this camera than you would on the A6300. Again, you're able to record in 4K for 24 and 30 frames a second, 1080p at 24, 30, 60, and that 120 slow motion. It does have all the picture profiles along with the Sony upgraded color science. So you can shoot in SLog 2, 3, Hyperlog Gamma 1, 2, 3. So you get all the great log profiles that Sony has to offer at this moment. The other great thing is you have no recording limit. So you could literally, as long as you give this thing power and enough memory space to record your videos, you could record forever on this thing. It does have a microphone jack, and also it's got that amazing flip screen. That flip screen is definitely a game changer when you're sitting down trying to make videos. The final camera in this category is the A6500. Once again, coming in just under $1,000, and that's with the kit lens. It's gonna use the same sensor as the other two cameras, the 64 and the 6300, but it has that older processor. So it's a little bit slower than the A6400. It does have the 4K for 24 and 30 frames a second, and the 1080p for 24, 30, 60, and that 120 slow motion. It does not have a flip screen. It also has the same picture profiles as the A6300, so we're talking no HLG in this camera. It's also got the 30-minute record limit, and it does come with a microphone jack. And it adds in a headphone jack, so you can listen to that audio after you're done recording. The other plus feature with this, it's got Sony's IBIS, the 5-axis IBIS. Now this is stabilization that is not amazing, but it's definitely better than having nothing. Pair that with a image stabilized lens, and it's gonna be a lot smoother than the A64, 63, 61, 51, or 6000 series. So the IBIS can be a game changer, and it may be something that ends up swaying you over to the 6500. But my top pick for this category is the Sony A6400. It's the camera that nobody really wanted in 2019, but it definitely was a game changer. The flip up screen is amazing. The color science is beautiful. It's the same color science as one of the cameras that we're gonna be talking about soon, the A7 III. And it just does the job. If you're a solo YouTube content creator, the A6400 is a solid camera, and it can be a must buy this holiday season. Also, I'll put links to all these cameras and everything that I'm talking about in this video down in the description below. They are affiliate links, and by using them, they do help support my channel and help me to continue to make great content like this. Next up, we have the 1000 to 1500 range. And now we're stepping up. We're definitely gonna get into some increased features in a lot of these cameras. Now, if you're a beginner, these may be things that you don't necessarily need, but maybe if you wanna future-proof yourself, these might be great options. The first camera up is gonna be the Sony A6600, coming in just under $1,400, and that's with no kit lens. So if you want a kit lens, it's gonna cost you a little bit more. The great thing about this is this has all the same features as the Sony A6400, but it's got a better battery life. It uses their full frame batteries, which get you at least twice the time as the ASPC batteries. So it's got a better battery system. It has the flip up screen. It also has Sony's IBIS system, so you're gonna get that image stabilization. Not the greatest again, but definitely better than no IBIS at all. It's also gonna have the eye autofocus system. So this is gonna be amazing autofocus, and it's gonna lock onto your eye, even in video. Some have argued that this may be the best autofocus system currently on the market. So again, this camera does record in 4K, 24 and 30 frames a second, and also 1080p in 24, 30, 60, and that 120 slow motion. That flip up screen is a definite game changer and really awesome to help frame you up as well. Next up, we got our first full frame contender, and that is the Sony A7 II. It's an older camera, so it is gonna be using those older batteries, so you're not gonna get as long as it shoots. This camera does have a larger body, and it does come in at a $1,400 price point with no kit lens. We got no 4K in this camera, but we do have the 1080p in 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. It does have the same picture profiles as the previously mentioned A6300 and 6500. It does have that 30-minute recording limit, but it has no flip-up screen. It does have the image stabilization of the 65 and the 6600, and it does come with a microphone jack. No headphone jack though. The final contender is a point and shoot, the RX100 Mark 7, coming in at the same price as the A6600 and the A7 Mark II. Now this camera is definitely smaller as it is a point and shoot camera, and it does have a slightly smaller sensor. It can record in 4K at 24 and 30 frames a second. It also does 1080p in 24, 30, 60, and that great 120 slow motion. It also has the same picture profiles as the Sony A6600, so you're gonna get that HLG along with the S-Logs. Downside, it does have a 30-minute recording limit. It does have a microphone jack, but no stabilization. The other thing is, it has a fixed lens on it. This is a point and shoot camera. What you buy is what you're gonna get. The problem is with that fixed lens on there, because sometimes you're gonna have to really crank up that shutter. So if you're looking for that blurry background, kind of like what we have right here, it's gonna be very difficult to get. Now my winner in this category definitely goes to the Sony A6600. This camera is amazing. It's got the upgraded features that the A6400 has. It's got the bigger Z battery, the stabilization, the headphone jack, and it's got the better color science. This camera is a solid camera and well worth the price. But the question is if you're just starting off, is it worth near $500 more to get those extra features than the A6400? Stay tuned to the end, as this camera and the A6400, along with the A6100, are currently the ones that are in the running for best camera of 2019. But first, we're gonna move on to the $1,500 to $2,000 price range. Now, I'm not gonna go over the $2,000 price range because if you're a beginner, I think that's really astronomical to go that high on a brand new camera. But right now I'm gonna focus on you, the beginner. So we're gonna go to the $2,000 price range. So first up, you have the Sony AR Mark II. This camera is currently priced at about $1,800, and that is for the body only. Now this is a full frame camera, so you are gonna get that slightly bigger body, but it still has those older batteries. So it doesn't have those new Z batteries that will last for hours and hours. It has these smaller batteries, which are gonna last you max up to an hour. Now this camera does shoot in 24 and 30 frames a second, along with 1080p in 24, 30, and 60 frames. You want the 120 slow-mo? Unfortunately, it's at 720p. The image quality is not gonna be as good on the 120. Also, the other thing, this is more of a stills camera, which you can record video in. But my recommendation, if you're gonna get this camera, this is more for the still photographer versus the video maker, the video creator. Now this camera does have the same picture profiles as the A63 and 6500. So you're gonna get the S-Log 2 and 3, but you're not gonna get that Hyperlog Gamma, and you're not gonna get that improved color science. Now it does have that 30-minute recording limit. It does come with a microphone jack, and it does come with image stabilization, but it doesn't have the flip up screen, and it has Sony's older autofocus system. And that one's definitely not as good as some of the upgrade models and some of the previous models that have won lower price categories. Also, the autofocus system does not match up with the next camera I'm going to talk about, and that's the Sony A7 III. At just under $2,000, this is a camera that started the full frame battle between the major camera manufacturers. Now it does have the larger body along with the better Z battery. Of course, it's a full frame sensor and you can shoot in 4K at 24 and 30p. You can also shoot 1080p at 24, 30, 60, and the 120 slow motion. So you don't have to downgrade to the 720p, on this camera. So it does have the same picture profiles as the Sony A64 and 6600. So that means you're gonna get the S-Log 2 and 3 along with the Hyperlog Gamma 1, 2, and 3. Now basically Sony's updated color science has done a great job of improving how natural the skin tones look. Unfortunately, unlike the A64 and the 6600, this does not have a flip-up screen and it is stuck with the 30-minute record limit. It also has a headphone jack, a mic jack, and it does have that 5-axis in-body stabilization, which is gonna help out in smoothing out some of your footage. Not the best, but it is definitely better than the ASPC versions of the stabilization, as that sensor has a little bit more room to move around. Now the hands down winner in this category has gotta go to the Sony A7 III. As I had mentioned, this camera definitely started a full frame war between Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, and all other camera manufacturers. This definitely drove down the price point. At only $2,000, this camera was a steal for the specs and the quality that you were getting. So if you were gonna go full frame, this is the camera to get. The downside though, is this camera's starting to get a little long in the tooth. It's been out now for nearly 2 years, and we already have the Sony A7 IV and the A9 Mark II. So the question is, will the Sony A7 IV be coming out shortly? And will you have some buyer's remorse if you end up buying this camera and paying that $2,000 price point when maybe in a couple months, 6 months maybe, you can pick up the A7 IV for only about $200 or $300 more? Or could we even see the A7 III, the hybrid video camera that everybody has been talking about for well over a year? Is Sony ever gonna release this mythical camera? I don't know. If they are gonna release it, it's probably gonna be in January or February of 2020. And now it's time, yes, for the best Sony camera for the holidays of 2019. Your final contenders: the Sony A6100, the Sony A6400, the Sony A6600, and the Sony A7 III. Which one is my ultimate pick? I'm gonna throw out the Sony A6100. With no picture profiles, I don't think it could be the best camera or the best value right now for the money. You got the Sony A7 III, which, like I mentioned, is getting a little long in the tooth now. I mean, less than 2 years is not super old for a camera, but when you have the upgrade models that are already out, the A7 IV and the A9 Mark II, it's tough to justify when those prices are starting to creep down for the higher models. The question is the autofocus is good? Now you do get better blurrier background because you got that full frame sensor. But the question is, once again, is that A7 Mark IV on the horizon? Are you gonna have that buyer's remorse? It's a great question. But the A7 Mark III is a super great camera, even at the end of 2019 and going into 2020. But what about the Sony A6400? It's got the improved color science, it's got the same picture profiles, it's near 60% less the cost. Is that a better buy? Is the ASPC lineup the way to go? But then again, it's missing the stabilization. It's missing the battery that the A7 III and the A6600 have to offer. Is the A6400 camera of the year? Or does it go to the A6600? You got the improved battery life, you got the stabilization, you got the flip screen of the A6400. It's essentially like they took some of the best features from the Sony A7 III and upgraded the Sony A6400. But the question is it worth that extra $500 over the Sony A6400? That's for you to decide. But you did come here to get my final opinion on which camera I would buy if I were starting all over right now. And the winner is, drum roll please, my winner for top camera this holiday season 2019 for a beginner videographer would be the Sony A6600. It's the midway point. It's a great starting camera. It's got that IBIS. It's got the flip screen. It's got the improved battery. It's got the picture profiles. It's got everything that the Sony A7 III has with the flip up screen, except for the larger sensor. Now, if I were just starting out and I was gonna get the A6600, what I would do is I would definitely go with the kit lens, but then I would also invest in the full frame glass. Sony's full frame glass are definitely better than their ASPC lineup. Now, the good news is you have third-party manufacturers like Sony and Tamron who are making great third-party alternatives, but I would invest in the full frame glass. And then maybe in a year, 2 years from now, when you're ready to upgrade again to maybe the A7 IV or the A7 III or 4 or whatever they're gonna call it, you're gonna have the full frame glass. You're gonna be ready to go. Because at the end of the day, the camera body does a great job, but it's really the glass, it's the lenses that you put on the camera that are gonna make a huge difference in the image quality. I'm currently shooting with the Sony a6400 with the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. And I think the image quality looks really good, but I would invest in the full frame glass. Get the 6600, invest in the full frame glass, and I think you're gonna be very happy with that combo. Plus, you could also, if you have the bucks, you could also get the 16-55 f2.8 ASPC lens that Sony just came out with. That might be a great alternative to the full frame glass, but if you got the bucks, maybe you wanna just spend it on the full frame glass and go with the 6600, and I think you're gonna be perfectly happy with that camera. It's gonna shoot great video, you're gonna be able to take great still pictures. It's the best of both worlds. Highly recommend it. So what do you think? Did I get it right? Do you agree with my pick of the Sony a6600? I wanna hear your feedback. Leave me comments down below. Let me know if you agree with my opinion, or am I off my rocker? And is there a better camera for 2019? If you like this video, make sure you pop that like button, subscribe to see more, ring that bell notification so you don't miss out on my future videos. Want to see another video about Sony cameras? Click right here. Want to see another video from my channel? Click right here. It's a YouTube pick. Let me know how they do in the comments of that next video. Thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you in the next one.